The first Zionists were not Jewish, they were anti-Semites.
We should really be against the genocide, because that's exactly what happened to Jewish people.
Especially again in Austria and Germany. They are completely on the wrong side of history, again and again.
If they are anti-genocide, they should be anti-genocide that is happening to any people.
Yes, the people that live there should get their freedom, and it should be decolonized, and there should be one state with equal rights for everyone who's living there.
You cannot simply portray them as equal victims.
No, it's not an equal conflict. There is an oppression, there's an oppressed.
I think that I would like to start with your family's history, particularly their escape from Nazi Vienna and the subsequent rebuilding of their life in Palestine.
When I was born in '69 in Vienna, and my family made a journey from 38. I mean, they lived in Vienna, and 38 they had to move because my grandfather was arrested and came free by the Nazis, and came free because he had connections to a person from inside and intervened, so he came free. And then my grandmother took the children, and she was originally from Serbia, so a region called Vojvodina, and so they went there with all the children. Also my grandmother, she was then 9 years old. And when they came to Serbia, my grandmother was sure that they are not safe there. And she planned to move to Palestine. And all of her siblings, it was a big family, they said, you know, you're crazy, you're just hysterical. I mean, nothing is going to happen here, you are safe. But she insisted, and so they made their way to Palestine. And all of the family was either murdered or survived the concentration camps in Serbia, because of course we know Hitler came there. And so my family was the only one that survived in Palestine. But my grandmother did not like to stay there. I mean, she was a Zionist in the sense that she wanted a Jewish state, but she did never want to belong there. So in '47, even before the state was created, they went back to Austria, and they heard the partition, the UN partition agreement in the radio on the ship. They were not able to leave because Jews were not able to leave in these times. But they said that they are going to Egypt for a vacation. So they left, and in fact they took a boat back to Europe. Mm-hmm. And my grandmother stayed because she was pregnant already in '47, and in January '48 my mother, she gave birth to my mother in Haifa, which was in the middle of the Nakba.
I see.
And they then later, 10 years later, when my mother was 10 years old, my grandmother decided also to go back to Vienna.
I see. That means that your mom was actually a Palestinian-born Jewish person.
Yes, she was born there in Palestine before the establishment of the state during the Nakba.
I see.
Yes.
When she left Palestine and came to Vienna, the state of Israel was already established.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And what was the reason that she wanted to come to Vienna instead of staying in Israel?
I think she was, my grandmother, they came from a very wealthy family, mm-hmm. and the situation in Israel then was difficult economically. So, and also she was not used to the living conditions then. Mm-hmm. So they decided to go back, because also the family of my grandmother said that they're going to support them and to help them to establish their own business in Vienna.
So from their experience, because they have, like you said, the ones who stayed in Europe and who did not escape to Palestine, they were practically wiped out from the World War II.
Yeah.
And your family who have survived and then managed to continue their life in Europe, how's their feeling about the state of Israel?
I would say typical Zionist Jews that, although didn't want to live there because of the reason I mentioned, they wanted to, they still think that it's important to have a Jewish state over there, and not thinking a lot about the faith of the indigenous people, the Palestinians over there, but just, subscribing to the usual hasbara, what we say in Hebrew, the usual narrative of Israel, and not thinking a lot about it and just repeating it. They're basically very racist against brown people and black people in general, and they don't bother. They just think about their own community, about their own tribe, so to say, and that's it.
So, would you describe that Zionism, rather than what they believe as a Jewish identity, but it's more like a tribal or political ideology that is only for a particular group of Jews?
Yeah, I mean it's a mixture of being traditional and upholding some religious traditions.
I see.
And most of the Jewish identity is a Zionist. Is a Zionist identity. That's
for your family.
Yeah, they define themselves as Jewish in the sense of belonging to the Israeli language, culture, which is very new.
And because you grew up in such a family environment and a Zionist environment, how have these experiences from early days shaped your worldview and identity?
I mean, in the beginning, I signed up to Zionism. I came from this family.
Yes.
And I was brought up on this narrative. And it was only later in Palestine when I met my Arab teacher, who was Palestinian. And he told me his story during the Nakba, the story of his family. And all of a sudden I saw I could relate to his feelings as a Palestinian living in a Jewish state. Until then I believed, okay, there's Jews and non-Jews and Palestinians, and they can have, it's a democracy, I subscribe to the Zionist narrative. But then I could relate to his feelings. I could relate to how he feels as a Palestinian to live in a state that purpose of the state is to be Jewish. And I all of a sudden realized how racist this is, and how racist the politics of the state is, and then I started to be vocal about
I see. Palestinian
rights and solidarity.
So it's through your own experience of living in Palestine,
yes,
that you witnessed what was really
yes,
going on, which
yes,
you were not aware before.
Yes.
I see. So that you start to distinguish Zionism as political ideology from Jewish identity, the concept of Jewish identity.
Yes, exactly.
I see. How long did you live in Palestine?
13 years.
13 years. Wow.
13 years, and I moved there in '87, and then in 90, it took me 5 years or something like this. I started to study at the university and worked in a peace camp, and started to study Arabic as part of my studies at university. And then I met my teacher.
I see. So your first transformation of your ideology happened there during
Yes.
your years in Palestine, and subsequently motivated you to become an advocate for Palestinian rights.
Yeah.
And when and why did you decide to move back to Vienna?
It was very difficult to continue living in Palestine with this political identity I had, because I always carried with me the Palestinian identity. Although I was not Palestinian, but I could relate to it so much, so that in the bus or wherever, at the restaurant, wherever I was listening to people speaking about, not only about politics, but racism in Israel is so eminent that I had always the feeling that I have to say something here. I cannot listen to this here. And I didn't have a lot. I was working for a Palestinian NGO, an Israeli Palestinian NGO. But I was not part of the community. I'm not Palestinian, and I was not part of the community. My Arabic was very bad. So on the one hand, I lost all my Jewish Israeli community. The anti-Zionist Jewish community in Israel was in the 90s, was practically not existent. So I didn't have a community to relate on, and I also saw how racist and discriminatory this place is, and I decided that I also didn't see there is going to be a change in the future from within. So I decided to go back to Vienna.
I see. During your time living in Israel, as you said that most of the Jewish people there grew up with this Zionist identity, and so have you. What do you think that influenced your perspective on this conflict between Israel and Palestine that are so prominently different from majority of the Jewish community in Israel?
I told you I was born in '69, and in the late 70s, early 80s, the situation in Austria was different. It was not philo-Semitic, it was very anti-Semitic still. There was no much talking about the Austrian past. There was still a denial. So in Austria, the majority saw themselves as the first victims of Nazi Germany, and there is no proper working on the past and trying to find out what happened exactly and whose role was what in the whole Holocaust. But then it was completely silenced. And I experienced a lot of antisemitism. So maybe this enabled me to recognize it when it was applied on Palestinians in Palestine.
I see. So basically being somewhat a victim of the racism and anti-Semitism made you realize that the same kind of discrimination or even crime can happen to also non-Jewish people,
Yes.
which is actually happening in Palestine
Yes.
to Palestinian
Yes.
people.
Yes, of course.
So does that mean that the current Jewish community, since the establishment of Israel, that as they were the descendant of perhaps the Jewish victims of World War II, so they did not have this on-hand experience of discrimination and racism to them in their lifetime?
Yeah, exactly. They don't have it. If they were born after the establishment of the state, they don't have it. And they cannot relate to it, I guess, yeah. And the victims themselves, well, there are numbers victims of Nazi Germany of the Holocaust that spoke out and understood the never again as a never again that counts for everyone. But most of the people that subscribed to Zionism, for them, never again was only never again for Jewish people. So, yeah.
I see. So practically Zionism is a colonist political ideology.
Yes.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. As a Jewish woman, how do you reconcile your heritage with your activism for Palestinian rights? Have you faced any challenges or criticism due to this intersection of identities, being a Jewish woman who are advocating for the equal rights, that including the Palestinian communities?
I see Jewishness as mainly a religion. Since I'm not religious, I would not define myself as a Jewish person. But I have Jewish, of course, roots and an experience living in Palestine as considered as a Jew. But then when I came back, I decided it was not a decision basically, but I lived a very assimilated life. But the system where Jewish voices are heard or listened to in Austria more than Palestinians or others made me realize that it's important to use this heritage of mine to make a point, a political point. And I will be more than happy to leave this Jewish voice behind me again, and to be a human being with universal values. Criticism a lot. I'm from my own Zionist family. They know how I believe. I know how what they believe. I find them deeply racist. But it's still my family, so we decided for a long time not to touch this topic. I remember that once my grandmother started to say racist things, and then I said, you have two choices: either you stop, then I stay, or you continue, but then I leave. And it was very clear, and they never. I had to remind them sometimes, but basically we just didn't talk about it. And now, after I was more outspoken and more involved in activism, they decided to cut their ties with me, and they won't talk to me anymore.
Do you think that one of the reasons that they want to, they chose to cut tie with you, unfortunately, was because this kind of peer pressure from their own community? Or is it because really the clash of ideology was so strong that there's just no room to somehow coexist anymore?
Yes, the clash of ideology is so strong. There are so outspoken Zionists and racists and nationalists that they cannot incorporate any criticism.
And do you think that they are like a sample or like a very typical model of the Jewish community?
Yes, they are. They are very rooted in the Jewish community. They are very central families in the Jewish community. My uncle worked for the Jewish community for, I think, more than 10 years.
I see. Can you define, that like these three different concepts: the Jewish religion, Judaism, the cultural tradition that you still somehow might still celebrate and practice, and then also the Zionism as a political ideology?
The Jewish religion, you have several directions. There is the ultra-Orthodox. They are one part of the ultra-Orthodox are Nitorei Karta. They are completely anti-Zionist, and part of them are very vocal about supporting Palestinian rights. And they were victims of Zionists because they joined demonstrations also inside Palestine with Palestinians, and they were beaten up. They are really treated terrible and harassed. And because the Zionist ideology, they also wanted that part of the ideology is also to build a new kind of person. After the Holocaust, it was their aim to build a strong person that fights, goes to wars. We see it every day, what came out, and completely deny religious thought. So yeah, this is one difference. I mean, there are also reformist movements and in Judaism, but they are not accepted by the traditional Orthodox Jewish people, but they are also very much religious. Their centers are mainly in the US, where you have female rabbis and all kinds of things, but they are also considering themselves as very religious. Then you have Zionists. That the interesting thing about Zionists is that they are not religious, but when it comes to their claims on the biblical land, they base their claims on religious. If you're not religious, to make the claim on behalf of the Bible doesn't make sense. It's just not logical at all, but that's what they do. And seems that the whole world, at least the Western world, follows this complete idiocy.
Why do you think that they do so, the Western world or the West, such as the European countries, Austria included, are supporting this kind of ideology of Zionism?
Zionism, the first Zionists were not Jewish, they were anti-Semites. It's actually an evangelical thought. And the people that thought that Jews should go back to Palestine is also because they thought that they should not stay in Europe or in the US or wherever. Yeah, it's good to get rid of them, to send them to Palestine. So this is one part which is deeply anti-Semitic, and the other part is that they are just racist against brown people, like Muslims, people from Arab origins. And they actually want to do the same to the migrants here in Europe as Israel does in Palestine. We see it in the rise of the right parties, how the people are not even trying to include others in also in the political sense. For example, the last elections in for the municipality in Vienna, there is one party that their candidate is a Muslim religious woman wearing a hijab, and she was posting a big post. I don't know if you saw it, but the poster was Sali Atia wants to be the next mayor of Vienna, and she promises 5 years without racism. And it caused a huge outcry of Austrians that said, without any argument, just thinking about a Muslim person being the mayor of Vienna they thought, outrageous. So there you see deep-rooted racism. And the paradox is that the right racist people support the fascist state of Israel. They support the government of Israel. Then you see how the lines are drawn.
Yeah. And it's interesting because in this very much a polarized climate, whether it's in reality or online, it's very difficult for people with very limited background knowledge about the issue, about the politics, about the history, to navigate through different voices, particularly considering that the Israeli lobbyist has a very, very strong dominance on the internet, advocating for their ideology. Yeah. And how can normal people navigate through that?
I think it's something that is done on purpose to make this conflict seem very difficult, because in essence, it's not difficult at all. I mean, the essence is just that there was a colonial movement by Jews, mainly survivors of the Holocaust, but started before, that colonized a country called Palestine. And it's just one of those conflicts. You don't have to be knowledgeable about all the wars that took place exactly and what else. This is bottom line, and from there you can start. It's very easy. Yeah. It's as if you would say a relationship between a woman and a man is complicated when the man is beating up the woman, because we don't know what was before.
The bottom line is that the domestic violence shouldn't be allowed.
Yes, exactly. Domestic violence shouldn't be allowed, and there is no questioning.
What I often see online is that in defense of Israel, the argument would bring in, let's say, for example, the hostages that were captured by Hamas, or the rockets that were fired by Hamas to Israel. How should people, react to such a defense?
That's a very good question, and thank you for asking it, because it's very central, I think. International rights, not only international rights, but also my moral stance understands completely that the people that is oppressed has the right and the duty to resist. Now, we are not talking about killing civilians. This is a war crime. But we're talking about resistance, military resistance with weapons. We celebrate the resistance fighters during World War II that resisted against the Nazi regime. And we should have the same standards and moral standing also when we talk about the Palestinian resistance. And then a lot of times I hear, yeah, but that's so crucial, and we have to stop, and we are pacifists and things like this. And I think, again, it's so easy to sit here as a privileged person that is not experiencing what's going on there. Our kids go to school; they are not killed by bombs. We can develop. We have a freedom of movement. We can, in Europe, it's no problem to go wherever we like. We can develop ourselves personally and economically, but that's not the case over there. And we cannot judge from sitting here people that experience those kinds of atrocities and genocide when they resist. I think it's completely normal. I think if we would think about it, no one of us could be sure to not be a Hamas fighter when living there. I cannot say this from myself. Mm-hmm. If I see that my kids are slaughtered, it's my duty to protect them. Mm-hmm. And it's legitimate.
So basically what you were saying is that the Israeli people and the Palestinian people, they are on a completely unequal standing.
Yes.
One is extremely oppressed while the other one is privileged.
Yes, exactly.
And the trauma for both sides are not the same thing.
No, are not the same thing. And also, I completely disagree with the notion that every time you talk about the genocide, you have to mention what happened on 7th of October, because it didn't start on 7th of October. Where do I have to start then? Mm-hmm. That's a political decision.
It's important to see that the both sides are actually not on an equal ground.
No.
You cannot simply portray them as equal victims.
No, it's not an equal conflict. There is an oppression, there's an oppressed. Yeah. There's one that has the support of the whole Western world, and the other one, it's like there is a picture where you see a tank rolling over and the Palestinian young boy throwing stones. Yeah. It's not equal. I mean, this picture shows exactly the
true nature
of this conflict.
Yeah. Okay. As an Austrian, woman born in Vienna, how do you experience and explain the current climate in Austria regarding Palestinian rights and solidarity movements, and not only in Austria but also to a broader Europe?
There is a lot of repression. Mm-hmm. The freedom of speech is cut. Concerning the pro-Palestinian movement, but you will soon see it also concerning other political movements. Because once you start with repression and not upholding free speech, democratic rights and civil rights like free speech and freedom of expression, freedom to demonstrate and things like this, you're going to far away to dictatorial fascist regimes, and this is also one reason why I think it's important to stand up now because if we don't stand up now, we don't know in which direction it's going to be.
Yeah. As an advocate and activist for Palestinian rights, have you encountered institutional or societal obstacles in your advocacy work?
I was invited several times to Secret Service to make it clear what I mean when I say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I had to make clear that when I say this, I do not say that all the people that live there should be thrown out or killed or whatever. It just says that the people that live there should get their freedom and it should be decolonized, and there should be one state with equal rights for everyone who's living there. The police is trying to involve us in cases, in accusations. So I mean, you have to fight it. You have to go to court. You have to write legal opinions and things like this. And all of this is, when all of this occupies you, you have less time to demonstrate and to be active. I mean, I was offered a job lately, and the people were. That offered me a job were happy about my experience, and they thought that my experience fits to the job, and it would be such a great thing if I could start working there. And then I was fair enough, and I told them, but you have to know that I'm also politically active. And then they said, that we have to check with the board. And then 2 weeks later they came back and they said, we found somebody that had a better fit.
Oh, wow. Your experience with encountering all these obstacles from this bigger environment is also discouraging other people from speaking up.
Exactly. And then there is another specific movement in Austria and in Germany, but I believe it's growing also in the other Western states, and that's the anti-fascistic movements that are pro-Israel and support everything Israel is doing. We call them they call themselves anti-Deutsche. And that's a movement which is very influential in Austria and in Germany. Most of the leftist parties, for example, include also the Green Party in Austria. They have a big portion of anti-Deutsche in the candidates and their movement. So we have to reclaim anti-fascism from them, because this, I want to make it clear, this is not something that is against Netanyahu, Smotrich, etc. That's for sure, but that's the outcome of Zionism. Mm-hmm. Zionism leads to this behavior, to this genocide.
Yeah. Somehow, what I came to understand from what's happening, as you described, is that the anti-Deutsch movement under the name of anti-fascism sounds to me like a side picking. Yeah. Rather than a consistent
yes.
Concept of justice and equality.
Yes, and they are deeply anti-Semitic against Jewish voices like myself. I mean, there is a whole movement of Jewish voices all over the world. Mm-hmm. That join Palestinian solidarity movement, but for them, those voices do not count. I was accused by the president of the parliament, the Austrian parliament, the former president, Wolfgang Sobotka, from the Conservative Party. He accused me twice of being anti-Semitic. And I said, how comes that you dare to accuse me? I'm Jewish, I have Jewish roots. And then he said, yes, there is such thing like anti-Semitic Jews.
So that means that, in their opinion, that only a type of particular Jews are counted as Jews.
Exactly.
Okay,
but this is deeply racist.
It is.
Mean, they have an idea about how a Jew has to think and should be, and everything else is not Jewish. And this is deeply anti-Semitic. Yeah. Deeply.
Yes. So I guess that it's very important to understand that anti-Semitism is in fact anti-humanity.
Yeah.
And rather name it discrimination against Jewish people, it should be more appropriate to call it discrimination against any people.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
just racism and discrimination in essence.
Yes.
However, the necessity of creating the term of anti-Semitism is enabling a similar practice of fascism and racism onto a different group of people.
Yes, yes. And I'm trying to avoid actually the term anti-Semitic.
Because of this.
Yeah, because it's one kind of racism. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe that Jews have a special category. Mm-hmm. There are scholars that believe so, but well, it's a scholarly question as well. But for me, I'm not a scholar, I'm an activist, and for me it doesn't make sense to have two words for the same.
Yeah. As the first step, that we need to stop misusing the term of anti-Semitism to silence any criticism of Israeli policies.
Yes.
And use anti-Semitism as a camouflage to shield any crime, genocide even, against Palestinian people. Why do you think that when it comes to the Palestinian issues, the voice is silenced here?
Of course, it's because of the history in Austria and Germany and the feeling of a historic guilt that was a state doctrine and in the educational system. It's like a brainwashed thing because Jews cannot be a normal minority even, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, because they are cared of, because there was this Holocaust, because the families are traumatized because of this and things like this. But I'm still struggling and trying to find out why, especially again in Austria and Germany, they are completely on the wrong side of history, again and again. And I don't have an answer. I really don't have an answer, but I'm asking myself.
Siding themselves with a group of people who used to be victims somehow can help wash the image that they used to carry, and they try very much to distance themselves from what happened in the past during the World War II.
Yes, I guess so. I mean, they're very afraid of being accused of anti-Semitism. Yeah. But I also think that there is something, I feel that people are afraid. Mm. I think there is a culture of being afraid. Afraid to speak out, afraid to lose the neighbor, afraid to not be part of society, afraid of being excluded because of your political thoughts. In the end, it leads to repression. It starts with the pro-Palestinian movement that gets repressed by Austrian police and government and decision-making powers. Mm-hmm. This can happen only because most of the people just don't speak out.
Yeah. In the end, we should really be against the genocide because that's exactly what happened to Jewish people.
Yes.
And if they are anti-genocide, they should be anti-genocide that is happening to any people.
Yes.
Yeah. 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 Can you tell us about the founding and mission of Not in Our Name in Vienna?
Yeah. Some friends of mine, anti-Zionist Jews, we thought that we have to raise our voices to make a difference in Austria, and we were inspired by the Jewish Voice for Peace in the US and also by the actions of the climate movement. Our voices were silenced, so we thought, okay, if we do actions, that media cannot silence us again. But it's very difficult to avoid being silenced. But we started with one protest at the parliament, which was also covered in Austrian media and worldwide. We disturbed the festive act in the parliament celebrating the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And 2 weeks before, the Austrian government voted at the UN against the ceasefire. So we wanted to make a point. And although Not in Our Name was founded by a group of Jewish people, we felt that we don't want to have a separate Jewish organization, so we opened it up to anyone who wanted to support and to be part of it, and we got involved in some actions and speaking out, speaking at demonstrations, organizing demonstration.
And how does this initiative, Not in Our Name, in Vienna, aim to challenge the prevailing narratives at this moment and support Palestinian solidarity?
What I'm doing lately is working towards anti-Zionist Jewish Congress, which will take place in June, very soon. It's going to be the first anti-Zionist Jewish anti-Zionist Congress, and it's not something we can be proud of because it took us so long until it is possible to do this, and it's also very difficult to do it here because of the repression. Even though it's Jewish, we have to be aware of repression, but I still think it's important to do it in Vienna because in Vienna, here Zionism started with Herzl, who lived here, and he wrote his Judenstaat here and everything. So we are working on that. We are bringing people from all over the world to talk about it. But what we really want to make clear is although it's called the Jewish Anti-Zionist Congress, the aim is to build a joint movement of all people, Palestinians and non-Palestinians, Jewish and non-Jewish, to come together and to build a big joint movement to stand against Zionism, against repression, and to enable the decolonization of Palestine. And the tool is the Jewish voice, which is heard more, and this is why we use it. But we will not deal with Jewish identity at all. We just say it's Jewish in the sense that the state of Israel speaks on behalf of these persons. Those persons, they say this is not in our name, but the most important message is that we want to fight alongside with Palestinians and other leftist progressive groups all over the world to decolonize Palestine.
Can you tell us a little bit more about this event, the first Jewish anti-Zionist Congress?
Yeah, it's going to take place from the 13th to the 15th of June. 2 days we will deal with inputs about repression, about the sources of Zionism, about all kinds of, also about anti-Zionist movements in Judaism, and about different inputs that lead us to the third day, where we want to engage in, okay, what now? How are we going to join forces to organize? We hope that the outcome is to be more able to act and to
inform
and to network and to have more input
I think that for most people like me, I think the minimum that we can do is to at least be informed of the reality and the truth.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to have additional information, just go to our website. It's www.stopzionism.at, and then you'll find more. And we, if you are able to and you want to enable this congress to happen, then and you don't have time to come, or in addition you have also financial means to support it, then we appreciate it a lot, because all of our work is done without money, but we have costs. We need to bring the people here. We need to accommodate them and things like this.
Yeah.
And those things just cost money. So we appreciate every donation.
I think it's very strategic and also very smart to start this solidarity movement from a Jewish community here in Vienna, particularly considering the political climate here, that is almost so easily jumped to anti-Semitism. If you say anything that is against the state of Israel.
There is a movement which is called One Democratic State Initiative, and that aim for one democratic state from the river to the sea, where everyone has same rights, equal rights. I hope it's going to happen, but I know that it's only going to happen, I'm sure, definitely sure, that it's only going to happen if there is enough pressure from outside. It will never happen from inside. So yes, if people, Jewish Israelis understand that they have to go another path. They have to abandon the Jewishness of the state and to accept equal rights for everyone. If we want that to happen, they have to understand that the price that they are paying for it is too high. And it's a little bit similar to South Africa. I mean, we need pressure from outside, financial pressure, we need sanctions. We need not only boycott, but foremost sanctions from outside, which means that you just make sure that whatever you're producing will not be used by Israel. You make sure that your books is not published there. You make sure that your podcasts are not seen there, whatever, if it's possible. And to just move to sanctions. You will not play in a football game where Israeli teams are playing. Sanctions and to put pressure from outside.
When you say that it's not possible to come from within, it's because the influence and the power is so strong that the people from the Jewish community there, the Jewish people there, they are just not able to distance themselves from such discriminative practice happening.
Yes, I think the people, Jewish Israelis, are brainwashed. They go through the education system. There is researches that show that, for example, in the kindergarten, they are confronted with books, drawings of books that tell them about the Holocaust in the kindergarten age. So they are on purpose traumatized by the Holocaust. It continues until school. 18-year-olds, before they go to the army, normally go to a trip to Auschwitz, and what they learn there is not the never again should be valid for everyone, but the never again is valid for Jewish people and for Israel. And then they go to the army, and then they are part of this. They are doing this genocide, and so I don't think that they are able to see what they are really brainwashed, and I don't see how we can change this state of mind from within.
I see.
And it was clear, Ilan Pape mentioned it already in the late 90s, that if we continue to educate like this inside Palestine, the Jewish Israelis, then we will have, the people will be more and more fascist and rightist, and he was right. And also there's a demographic change. Religious people that, I'm not talking about the ultra-Orthodox that are anti-Zionist, but religious people that believe in one Jewish biblical Israel, they are just getting to be the majority of the population of the Israeli Jews. So yeah, everything is shifting to the right, and there is no chance of resistance inside.
And what kind of pressure do they face, like in their daily life?
I mean, there's this, for example, a school teacher that that mentioned to his class that there is what we are doing in what they are doing in Gaza is terrible, and civilians are being killed, and he was jailed.
I see.
He was jailed
just for speaking the truth.
For speaking the truth, he was jailed.
Could you elaborate a bit, like how should people understand the difference between legitimate criticism of Israel and Zionism on one hand, and anti-Semitism on the other?
I think it's to begin with, it's very important to have it clear. Israel, the state of Israel, the official Israel, is trying to convey Judaism with Zionism. So just to have it clear, Zionism is one thing and Judaism is another thing. And if you are clear in your thoughts on this, and you know, okay, there are Jews and there are Zionists, then you can criticize Zionists for being Zionists and not be racist against Jews because they are Jews. Just have to have it clear. And I mean, this is a political decision to convey the Judaism with Zionism, because every time somebody criticizes Israel, Israel shouts, this is anti-Semitic. And you have to just to make it clear for yourself, okay, there are Zionists, but there are Jews, and it's okay to criticize Zionists, and it is not okay to criticize Jews in general. You can criticize persons that are also Jewish, but not because they are Jewish, but because maybe they are a bad person.
It's just almost like you have to separate people from government. Like you can criticize any government.
Yes.
The I don't know, the American government, the Austrian government, the German government.
Yes.
But it does not mean that you are discriminating against Germans, Austrians, Americans. So it's kind of like, indeed, you cannot bundle them together.
Yes.
Because it's almost like a tactic. Political tactic to somehow get away with a particular political agenda that is often discriminative and racist.
And I mean, when I say Zionists, then I mean all those people that believe that Palestine should be a Jewish state. So all those people that believe that Palestine should be a Jewish state, they are Zionists.
I want to look at the future. What changes would you like to see in Austrian society or even a broader European society concerning the discourse on Palestine?
Concerning the discourse of Palestine, well, I would love to see a lot of people on the streets. So nobody can be silent, like our governments will have to speak out. I want to see a broad movement of Palestine solidarity, and together with solidarity, and we are in a very dangerous situation because we hear the talks about more weapons. We need our governments in Europe want us to spend more money on weapons. They speak of abolishing neutrality in Austria. It goes in the direction of war. I think we have to be very careful about it and to raise our voices. I think the Palestinian issue should be part of this broader movement of standing up and raising our voices. And we can do it, but we have to be then vocal and we have to be masses.
If they're talking about justice and injustice, there shouldn't be any neutrality. They should always pick the side of justice.
Yeah, it's an active neutrality. It's neutrality in the sense of that Austria will not be part of a war on which side of ever.
Yes.
But outspoken in favor of support of oppressed people. Kreisky is a politician that was speaking out of in favor, was supporting the Palestinian cause in a neutral Austria. This tradition is called active neutrality. Austria is very vocal about. It's like two different measurements that were being used to speak about the conflict in Russia and Ukraine and about Palestine and Israel.
True.
Anyhow, I believe that there should be an active neutrality and always raising our voices to support oppressed people, but neutrality in the sense of that we will not take part of any fightings or having troops passing weapons through Austria, which is totally growing. I mean, you can see trains passing through Austria with weaponry, and this must be stopped because we should stay neutral and we should be an example for other countries to just not engage in wars.
Yeah. And somehow, right now, what is happening is completely the opposite. Not only they're allowing the weapons, but also suppressing the voices that are trying to support the victims of a genocide, an ongoing genocide.
Yes.
How can individuals contribute to a more informed and empathetic understanding of this issue, considering the current climate here?
I always tell people that want to be more informed about this specific conflict to start with the book of Ilan Pappe, The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine, and then just watch. We all know how to do research on internet, and we can go to YouTube and we can see Ilan Pappe, who did interview him, and who else was interviewed by this person, and then you learn about the conflict, and you start being more informed, and the informed people can be there to be addressed by people who want to know more and who are open to challenge and question the hegemonic beliefs in Austria. I do not believe that to try to engage in conviction of anti-Deutsche or Zionists. That doesn't make sense, and it won't change anything. So if people want to know, then yes, I'm more than happy to support and to accompany a path of how to get more information and talking and whatever. But if people are not willing to question their beliefs, then I think it's...
You first have to be willing to start asking questions and challenging what is established.
Yes.
Yeah. And often that takes courage.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for all your activity work, your activism work that bringing this very important voice to Austria, and that we too have a moral duty to stand up for the people who are being oppressed and massacred at this moment. If we truly believe that what happened to Jewish people during the World War II should not be repeated again.
Yes.